Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This morning we'll be in Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 15 through chapter 5, verse 13. Continuing from those who were rebuilding the wall. Shallun, son of Kolhoza, head of the district of Mizpah, worked on the fountain gate. He rebuilt it, put on its roof, and positioned its doors, its bolts, and its bars. In addition, he rebuilt the wall of the Pool of Siloam by the royal garden, as far as the steps that go down from the city of David. Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, head of a half-district of Beth-Zur, worked after him as far as the tombs of David and the artificial pool in the house of the warriors. After him the Levites worked, Rehum, son of Bani, and after him Hashabiah, head of half the district of Keilah, for his district. After him their relatives worked, Binnui, son of Henadad, head of a half-district of Keilah. Adjacent to him, Ezer, son of Jeshua, head of Mizpah, worked on another section, opposite the ascent to the armory at the buttress. After him, Barak, son of Zabbai, worked on another section, from the buttress to the door of the house of Eliashib the high priest. After him, Meremoth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakkoz, worked on another section, from the door of Eliashib's house to the end of it. After him, the priests worked, men of the nearby district. After them, Benjamin and Hashab worked opposite their house. After them, Azariah, son of Maaseiah, the son of Ananiah, worked near his house. After him, Binnui, son of Henadad, worked on another section, from the house of Azariah to the buttress in the corner. After him, Palal, son of Uzai, worked opposite the buttress and the tower that protrudes from the upper palace of the court of the guard. After him, Pedaiah, son of Parosh, and the temple servants who were living on Ophel, worked up to the area opposite the water gate toward the east in the protruding tower. After them, the men of Tekoa worked on another section, from opposite the great protruding tower to the wall of Ophel. Above the horse gate, the priests worked, each in front of his house. After them, Zadok, son of Immer, worked opposite his house, and after him, Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, guard at the east gate, worked. After him, Hananiah, son of Shelemiah, and Hanan, the sixth son of Zalaph, worked on another section. After them, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, worked opposite his quarters. After him, Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, worked as far as the house of the temple servants and the traders, opposite the inspection gate, and up to the room above the corner. And between the room above the corner and the sheep gate, the goldsmiths and traders worked. Now, when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was quite upset. He derided the Jews, and in the presence of his colleagues and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they be left to themselves? Will they again offer sacrifice? Will they finish this in a day? Can they bring these burnt stones to life again from piles of dust?" Then Tobiah the Ammonite, who was close by, said, "If even a fox were to climb up on what they were building, it would break down their wall of stones. Hear, O our God, for we are despised. Return their reproach on their own head. Reduce them to plunder in a land of exile. Do not cover their iniquity, and do not wipe out their sin from before them, for they have bitterly offended the builders." So we rebuilt the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to half its height. The people were enthusiastic in their work. When Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the restoration of the walls of Jerusalem had moved ahead, excuse me, and that the breaches had begun to be closed, they were very angry. All of them conspired together to move with armed forces against Jerusalem and to create a disturbance in it. So we prayed to our God and stationed a guard to protect against them both day and night. Then those in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers has failed. The debris is so great that we are unable to rebuild the wall." Our adversaries also boasted, before they are aware or anticipate anything, we will come in among them and kill them, and we will bring this work to a halt. So it happened that the Jews who were living near them came and warned us repeatedly about all the schemes that they were plotting against us. So I stationed people at the lower places behind the wall and the exposed places. I stationed the people by families, with their swords, spears, and bows. When I had made an inspection, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, Don't be afraid of them. Remember the great and awesome Lord, and fight on behalf of your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your families. It so happened that when our adversaries heard that we were aware of these matters, God frustrated their intentions. Then all of us returned to the wall, each to his own work. From that day forward, half of my men were doing the work, and half of them were taking up spears, shields, bows, and body armor. Now the officers were behind all the people of Judah, who were rebuilding the wall. Those who were carrying loads did so by keeping one hand on the work and the other on their weapon. The builders, to a man, had their swords strapped to their sides while they were building, but the trumpeter remained with me. I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, the work is demanding and extensive, and we are spreading out on the wall, far removed from one another. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, gather there with us. Our God will fight for us. So we worked on, with half-holding spears, from dawn till dusk. At that time I instructed the people, let every man and his co-workers spend the night in Jerusalem, and let them be guards for us by night and workers by day. We did not change clothes, not I nor my relatives, nor my workers, nor the watchmen who were with me. Each had his weapon, even when getting a drink of water. Then there was a great outcry from the people and their wives against their fellow Jews. There were those who said, with our sons and daughters we are many. We must obtain grain in order to eat and stay alive. There were others who said, we are putting up our fields, our vineyards, and our houses as collateral in order to obtain grain during the famine. Then there were those who said, we have borrowed money to pay our taxes to the king on our fields and our vineyards. And now, though we share the same flesh and blood as our fellow countrymen, and our children are just like their children, still we have found it necessary to subject our sons and daughters to slavery. Some of our daughters have been subjected to slavery, while we are powerless to help, since our fields and vineyards now belong to other people. I was very angry when I heard their outcry and these complaints. I considered these things carefully, and then registered a complaint with the wealthy and the officials. I said to them, each of you is seizing the collateral from your own countrymen. Because of them, I called for a great public assembly. I said to them, to the extent possible, we have bought back our fellow Jews who had been sold to the Gentiles, but now you yourselves want to sell your own countrymen so that we can then buy them back. They were utterly silent and could not find anything to say. Then I said, the thing that you are doing is wrong. Should you not conduct yourselves in the fear of our God in order to avoid the reproach of the Gentiles, who are our enemies? Even I and my relatives and my associates are lending them money and grain, but let us abandon this practice of seizing collateral. This very day return to them their fields, their vineyards, their olive trees, and their houses, along with the interest that you are exacting from them on the money, the grain, the new wine, and the olive oil. They replied, we will return these things, and we will no longer demand anything from them. We will do just as you say. Then I called the priests, and made the wealthy and the officials swear to do what had been promised. I also shook out my garment, and I said, in this way may God shake out from his house and his property every person who does not carry out this matter. In this way may he be shaken out and emptied. All the assembly replied, so be it, and they praised the Lord. Then the people did as they promised. So you had the rest of the list of the builders who worked on the wall, with goldsmiths, traders, priests, temple servants, and all sorts of other people participating in the rebuilding of the wall. But then you have this group of ne'er-do-wells in Jerusalem who are deriding and scorning the work. In 4:2, Sanballat is saying, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they be left to themselves? Will they again offer sacrifice? Will they finish this in a day? Can they bring these burnt stones to life again from piles of dust? And Tobiah says, if even a fox were to climb on what they are building, it would break down their wall of stones. Which apparently bitterly offended the builders. But again, I think it's interesting that in that these officials are not far away, but in fact living among them. That is, in 412, so it happened that the Jews who were living near them came and warned us repeatedly about all the schemes they were plotting against us. So, but the Lord frustrated their plans, and half of the people worked with spear and armor and equipped, and the other half did the work. And they would carry loads with one hand so that they could have their weapon in the other. But then after this, you have this instance of injustice amongst the Jews, where the wealthy among them are seizing the assets of the poor, that is, their farms, their fields, and even their sons and their daughters, in order to pay off debts during the famine, and also charging interest. That is, seizing any means that they have of repaying this debt, and then charging interest on top. So, Nehemiah says, no, stop. This has to stop. From Guzik here. This group of ne'er-do-wells conspired together to come and attack. As the work progressed, the enemies became more serious. Now they didn't simply complain or mock, they threatened and planned for violence. On the one hand, this was serious. The wall was built to protect against the attacks of violence, and now it seemed that the very building of the wall may prompt an attack to come. It would have been easy for the people to fear and to think perhaps all their work would be made useless. On the other hand, this wasn't serious at all. We noticed that they didn't attack, they just talked about it. Sanballat and Tobiah were hoping that the threat of attack would be enough. Satan uses the same strategy of fear against us, and if we are paralyzed by a threat, the threat has worked, even when nothing actually happens against us. Nevertheless, we made our prayer to God. Nothing would make them stop depending on God through prayer. They might have given up, believing the continued attack was a failure on God's part to answer prayer before, but they had more trust in God than that. God allowed the attack to go on, even though he could have instantly swept it away. Yet he allowed it to continue because he was delighted that his people drew closer to him with a deeper trust than ever before. God did his perfect work both in building the walls and his people. We set a watch. They also knew that prayer didn't mean they were to do nothing. They used sanctified common sense to do what they should have, protecting against attack, using willing servants of God to be the wall until the wall was built. It isn't hard to imagine some super spiritual among them saying, "Now, Nehemiah, we don't need to set a watch. We have prayed, and God will protect us." Nehemiah would likely respond, "Yes, God will protect us, and he will as he finds us doing our duty before him, set the guard." Our prayers do not replace our actions. They make our actions effective for God's work. We are not able to build the wall. The excavation work had to start before they could build the walls up. They had to tear it down and clear away the old rubbish. They had to go down before they could go up. It was difficult because often the work of building is a lot easier or more fun than clearing away the rubbish. It was difficult because as the mound of rubbish was torn down, the city was even more vulnerable than before. We can see some thinking, "Don't take away the rubbish, our enemies are near, and you merely clear a path for them to come in." It was difficult because there have always been those who will defend any heap of rubbish, no matter how useless it is. Well, my grandfather had that pile of rubbish, and it was good enough for him. It is good enough for us. This is bad thinking. We should clear away the old so we can build on the true foundation. But it's definitely easy to get discouraged when the work is large, and you have this feeling of, oh, where do you even start? Anyhow, carrying on. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 25 through 40. With regard to the question about people who have never married, I have no command from the Lord, but I give my opinion as one shown mercy by the Lord to be trustworthy. Because of the impending crisis, I think it best for you to remain as you are. The one bound to a wife should not seek divorce. The one released from a wife should not seek marriage. But if you marry, you have not sinned. And if a virgin marries, she has not sinned. But those who marry will face difficult circumstances. And I am trying to spare you such problems. And I say this, brothers and sisters, the time is short. So then, those who have wives should be as those who have none. Those with tears like those not weeping. Those who rejoice like those not rejoicing. Those who buy like those without possessions. Those who use the world as though they were not using it to the full. For the present shape of this world is passing away. And I want you to be free from concern. An unmarried man is concerned about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But a married man is concerned about the things of the world, how to please his wife, and he is divided. An unmarried woman or virgin is concerned about the things of the Lord, to be holy both in body and spirit. But a married woman is concerned about the things of the world, how to please her husband. I am saying this for your benefit, not to place a limitation on you, but so that without distraction you may give notable and constant service to the Lord. If anyone thinks he is acting inappropriately towards his virgin, if she is past the bloom of youth and it seems necessary, he should do what he wishes. He does not sin. Let them marry. But the man who is firm in his commitment and is under no necessity, but has control over his will and has decided in his own mind to keep his own virgin, does well. So then, the one who marries his own virgin does well, but the one who does not does better. A wife is bound as long as her husband is living, but if her husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she wishes, only someone in the Lord. But in my opinion, she will be happier if she remains as she is, and I think that I too have the Spirit of God. So again, we should keep in mind that Paul is addressing the prime error of the Corinthian church here, which is that they regarded not having sex as being more spiritual. But Paul is here saying that neither being married nor being unmarried is any more spiritual than the other. But he gives his own advice in here, and not a general commandment that all believers should follow, but one which he was qualified to give because of the work of the Spirit building him up in his life. That those in Corinth should remain unmarried because of the persecution to come. And indeed, you had very severe persecution by the Roman Empire, where they would, throw Christians to the lions. And regarding 736 through 38 with the marrying of a virgin, from Guzik here, if any man thinks he is behaving improperly toward his virgin, the man Paul refers to is the father of a young woman or man of marrying age, his virgin. The behaving improperly has nothing to do with any kind of improper moral behavior, but with denying his daughter or son the right to marry based on the way Paul values singleness. Remember that in this ancient culture, a young person's parents had the primary responsibility for arranging their marriage. So based on what Paul has already taught, should a Christian father recommend celibacy to his child? The term virgin includes the young of both sexes. Let him do what he wishes. He does not sin. Let them marry. Paul says it is not wrong for a father to allow his young daughter to marry, even allowing for the desirability of singleness at the present time. Determined in his heart that he will keep his virgin does well. Because singleness does have its benefits, Paul will recommend it not only to individuals but also to fathers in regard to the marrying off of their daughters. He who gives her in marriage does well, but he who does not give her in marriage does better. For Paul, the choice between married and single, was not the choice between good and bad, but between better and best. And for Paul, in light of the present circumstances, he regarded singleness as the best. Carrying on, Psalm 32, verses 1 through 11. How blessed is the one whose rebellious acts are forgiven, whose sin is pardoned. How blessed is the one whose wrongdoing the Lord does not punish, in whose spirit there is no deceit. When I refused to confess my sin, my whole body wasted away, while I groaned in pain all day long. For day and night you tormented me. You tried to destroy me in the intense heat of summer. Selah. Then I confessed my sin. I no longer covered up my wrongdoing. I said, I will confess my rebellious acts to the Lord, and then you forgave my sins. Selah. For this reason, every one of your faithful followers should pray to you while there is a window of opportunity. Certainly when the surging water rises, it will not reach them. You are my hiding place. You protect me from distress. You surround me with shouts of joy from those celebrating deliverance. I will instruct and teach you about how you should live. I will advise you as I look you in the eye. Do not be like an unintelligent horse or mule, which will not obey you unless they are controlled by a bridle and bit. An evil person suffers much pain, but the Lord's faithfulness overwhelms the one who trusts in him. Rejoice in the Lord and be happy, you who are godly. Shout for joy, all you who are morally upright. This particular psalm is referenced in Romans 4, where Paul is talking about grace through faith, not through works of the law. So, carrying on, Proverbs chapter 21, verses 5 through 7. The plans of the diligent lead surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. The acquisition of treasures by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor, the pursuit of death. The violence of the wicked will drag them away, because they refuse to act with justice. The plans of the diligent lead surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. Yeah, and that ends up being the case in a lot of different areas where if you have a plan and follow it through, you succeed. But if you try to shortcut it, then it fails. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day.